Welcome to our new video on cell, the unit of life. Once upon a time, there was a man named Robert Hooke who lived in the 1600s. He was a very curious man who loved to observe and experiment with things around him. One day, while he was looking at a piece of cork through a microscope, he noticed tiny empty boxes. He named these boxes as cells, and this was the first time anyone had seen cells. Years later, another scientist named Anton van Leeuwenhoek improved the microscope and was able to observe tiny living things, which he called animalcules. He saw bacteria and other microorganisms for the first time. People were amazed by these discoveries and started to realize the importance of cells. But the real understanding of cells started with the work of Matthias Schleiden and Theodor Schwann. They both came up with the theory that all living things are made of cells and that cells are the basic unit of life. This theory is known as the cell theory, and it is still accepted today. The next big step in understanding cells was taken by Rudolf Virchow. He said that cells can only come from other cells. This is known as the law of biogenesis. He also pointed out that cells are like tiny factories that carry out all the functions needed to keep the organism alive. This was a turning point in the study of cells and allowed scientists to study them more closely. They soon discovered that cells had different structures and functions, and so, they classified cells into two main types: prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells were simple cells without a nucleus and were usually found in bacteria. Eukaryotic cells, on the other hand, were more complex and had a nucleus and were found in all other living things, from plants to animals. As scientists continued to study cells, they found that they were full of important structures and organelles, each with its own unique function. The cell membrane, also known as the plasma membrane, is a thin, flexible barrier that surrounds the cell and separates its interior from the outside environment. It is made up of a double layer of phospholipids, which are composed of a lipid, fatty, bilayer with proteins scattered throughout. The cytoplasm was a gel-like substance inside the cell that contained all the important structures and organelles. The endoplasmic reticulum was like a busy factory, constantly producing and processing proteins and lipids. The Golgi apparatus was like a post office, sorting and directing proteins and lipids to their final destinations. Lysosomes were like the cell's own cleanup crew. They got rid of waste materials and old organelles, keeping the cell tidy and healthy. Vacuoles were like storage rooms, holding important materials and keeping the cell shape in check. The mitochondria are often referred to as the powerhouses of the cell. They are responsible for generating energy for the cell through cellular respiration. Plastids are found in plant cells and play a role in photosynthesis, the process by which plants produce their own food. There are several different types of plastids, including chloroplasts, which are responsible for producing chlorophyll. Ribosomes are tiny structures that are responsible for making proteins. They work by translating the genetic code stored in DNA into the instructions needed to build proteins. The cytoskeleton is a network of protein fibers that provide support and structure to the cell. It also helps the cell maintain its shape and enables it to move. Cilia and flagella are hair-like structures that help the cell move. Cilia are short, hair-like projections that beat in a rhythmic fashion to move fluids or particles past the cell. Flagella are longer, whip-like structures that enable cells to swim. The centrosome is a structure that helps to organize the cell's microtubules. It contains a pair of centrioles, which play a role in cell division. The nucleus is a central and important organelle in eukaryotic cells. It acts as the control center of the cell, regulating many of its vital functions. The nucleus contains the cell's genetic material, stored as DNA, which is responsible for directing all of the cell's activities. The DNA within the nucleus is organized into structures called chromosomes. The number of chromosomes varies between species, but in humans, there are 46 chromosomes, 23 pairs. The DNA within the chromosomes contains the genetic information that directs the formation of proteins, which perform a wide variety of functions within the cell. In addition to containing the genetic material, the nucleus also has a specialized structure called the nuclear envelope that separates the nucleus from the rest of the cell. The nuclear envelope is composed of two lipid membranes that regulate the movement of materials into and out of the nucleus. Microbeads are small, membrane-bound organelles that are involved in breaking down certain substances within the cell. The end. We hope you enjoyed our video on cell, the unit of life. We hope the story-based format helped you to understand the chapter better. If you have any questions or feedback, please reach out to us. Thank you for joining us and stay tuned for more exciting content.